First Conference of Łódzkie Macroregion. Microorganisms in Environment Revitalization, the Practice. Quadrant Ecosystem Method in Sewage Sludge Management and Waste Biodegradation. Probiomicroorganisms, colloquially about preparations containing beneficial probiotic microorganisms. The essence of the Quadrant Ecosystem Method is in the appropriate use of compositions of beneficial microorganisms called probiomicroorganisms. Robert Kiyosaki, in his book Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide into Financial Freedom, formulated ideas of ensuring the financial security to a man. Sławomir Gacka and Stanisław Kolbusz, authors of the Quadrant Ecosystem Method, perceived an analogy between the idea of the cash flow quadrant and the idea of the energy flow quadrant in all of the ecosystems and rooted in the laws of nature. The microorganisms are the ones that lead environmentally friendly degradation of organic matter. We assume that there has to be a way, the right place, the right proportions of preparing the composition, just to support or correct processes in wastewater treatment plants, composting sites, and waste repositories. Quadrant Ecosystem Method, in a courageous way, makes use of beneficial probiotic microorganisms. The mechanisms of the food chain are responsible for the constant flow of energy components in the animate world. Their aim is to spontaneously raise the quality of relationship between four forms of life growing in four parts of the world among the four elements of nature and four seasons. That is where the name Quadrant Ecosystem comes from. All the work that a wastewater treatment plant has to do is to find a safe way to cut bonds that are keeping water. That means that we have to find such a situation in which sludge will behave like a sponge, so that the water could be easily drained. Unfortunately, conventional methods, in a lot of cases, lead to a reverse situation. They make sludge compact, make it rot easily, and be dominated by microorganisms that decompose in a pathogenic direction. That is when we can smell odors, when we are threatened by toxins, when parasites can be present in sludge. This wastewater treatment plant was one of the world's leaders in producing olfactory nuisance. The first thing we had to do was to make sure that the probiomicroorganisms won't affect the production of biogas. Olfactory nuisance was minimized in a short time, but there was still a problem with sludge that was hygienized with lime. This is a common method of hygienization. Lime eliminates, for some time, odorous biological processes, but what happens after 2.5 or 3 months is that the pH will return to the level acceptable for microorganisms and natural processes will activate. It means that after 2.5 or 3 months, there will be a problem with olfactory nuisance again. In our wastewater treatment plant, we have been using the beneficial microorganisms for 3 years now. When we rented this container, and I have to add that this year much more liquid sewage is coming into the plant, more or less 1 container per week was paid for to the municipal treatment plant. We calculated the cost of screening disposal. It would have cost us well above 65–70,000 zloty per year, while now we don't have any disposal since February. Screening's aging is a technological process and not storage. Right now, the county's supervising officials agree that it is a process of screening's hygienization and degradation of organic matter contained in them, and that it is a process running inside the pile. The temperature measured last was more or less 30 centimeters below the surface and 36 at the deepest level. Lime has also the disadvantage of bonding water. Lime doesn't allow water to drip as well as it would naturally. In a situation where we had 2 samples, one pile with lime and the second pile with probiomicroorganisms, the pile with lime was moist and ill-smelling after 4 months, and the one with the probiomicroorganisms was causing no nuisance. What's more, the pile with the microorganisms was 1/4 smaller than the pile with lime. Of course, it translates to money too. We have much smaller disposal costs of screenings, sand from settlers and sludge from the plant. Detention time is estimated at no less than 1 year. The pile that we have here has been aging for 5 months already. February, March, April, May, June, and after 1 year's time, we report that it is stored. Only then do we do an analysis of pathogenic bacteria and parasites, when we provide the time for their natural elimination. The pile of stored screenings. Pathogenic bacteria are no longer present, but the level of the other type of parasites, the ATT ratio, is at 285. The analyses are made by Professor Kalisz from the Environmental Protection Institute. There was an issue of hygienization, as we weren't sure if the microorganisms